I'm now going to demonstrate how to create a 2D mapping flight on the Enterprise controller and then fly it on a consumer drone such as the Mini 4 Pro or Air 3S or any other drone that can handle waypoints. So first I have to create the 2D mapping mission on the controller itself. So I select the area route, define the area I actually wish to map itself. And once I'm happy with that, I press the blue tick and I select the aircraft. I need to leave it on auto collection. I'm reducing the ground separation distance to 2. Relative to takeoff point is fine. The altitude is fine. Remove the elevation optimization. The safe takeoff altitude I'll actually set to the same as the route altitude. I shall reduce the speed down to about 5 or 6 miles per hour. That helps reduce motion blur. I'm happy with everything else. Change the actual route name. Test flight 2D will be fine for this example. So I'm happy and I will save that. So I've created the mission, saved it. I'm now going to download that to my PC. However, the next thing I'm going to do is actually install the application on my phone. That will create the necessary directories on the phone for me later to copy the missions from the PC back onto the phone itself. So the first time you run the application, you come up with a disclaimer screen, which I'm afraid you have to accept. Then it's going to ask you for a directory setup. Now, it's going to generate a number of subdirectories on your phone, and you need to tell the application where this is going to be. You have to select documents. So we select the select storage location, and in this case it's taken you straight there, so you could just hit the use this folder button straight away, but just for reference I'll take you back to the root, and now you can see all the folders in the root, and there is a document folder there. Just select documents and you'll go straight back to documents. So hit use this folder button, allow, continue, accept the location permissions, and then the application has started. Okay, so I've now connected the Enterprise controller to the PC, so I'm now going to copy all the flights to my PC. So I need to go into internal storage, DJI, mission and KML. That's where the Enterprise keeps all the flights anyway. So I will select all the flights and I will copy those, and I'll copy them to my documents directory. However, I will create a subdirectory first. I'll call that DJI. And whoops, I can paste all those in there. Now unfortunately when I copy them, all the time and date stamps go completely wrong. However, I do know for a fact that D4, that one is the test flight 2D, which is the one I've just created. The nice thing about the Enterprise flight is that under the hexadecimal directory it does actually contain the name that you actually chose, unlike the consumer drones, they just use hexadecimal numbers all over the place. Right, so there's the 2D one. So that's how I've copied all the flights to my PC. That should be reasonably straightforward. Okay, so I've now copied all the missions from the Enterprise controller to my PC. I'm now going to copy all those missions to the phone. So I'm going to select all of those and now navigate to the phone, which is connected over USB. So I go to internal storage, documents, drone, mission, KML. and I copy all of the missions there. When I install the application, it asked me to select a directory, and you had to select documents. When you do that, it creates all these subdirectories, the drone, mission, KML, as well as the exported and RC2 Pro directories. So I've now copied all the missions to the phone. The phone can now import those and convert them. So now I've copied all of those missions to the phone. You can now use the application to convert it and then export it to a consumer controller and fly it on a consumer drone. Okay, so back to the application. As I've now imported all the Enterprise missions, the import KMZ icon is now yellow, it is now active. Had I not done that, it would have remained grey. So if I select import KMZ, it will give me a complete list of all the flights I have. And incidentally, on the right hand side you see the first 8 hexadecimal characters. That's just a representation of the directories they're in, so if you want to have a look at them on the PC at the same time, you can correlate them basically. So anyway, let's go down to the test flight 2D. I shall select that one, and lo and behold, that's loaded it into the application. So the application has now loaded that Enterprise mission, and we can now view that on the screen. On the left hand side of the screen we have 3 options: curved, straighter and straight. Curved basically is the original Bezier route that the consumer drone would like to fly. Well, that's no good for mapping, so I've given you these 2 other options. Straighter, in which case we now get a lawnmower path, but technically speaking it is still a Bezier curve, but by adding extra waypoints I've got the Bezier curve just happening at the actual corners, and we end up with nice straight lines in between each corner, and that works reasonably well. I've tested that, and yep, the results seem good. That doesn't give the consumer controller any headaches. If we select straight, that will produce again a nice lawnmower path, and it's actually using the straight line methods as described in the DJI document, so that has actually changed the Waylines WPML to use straight lines. If we export this, copy it across to the consumer controller, it'll work fine when you load it in, but what you mustn't do is when you exit the flight on the controller is hit save and exit. If you do, it'll make a mess of it. So providing you don't hit save and exit on the controller, I'll go through this later just to be clear, it'll work fine. But you have the choice. You can use the straighter, which won't upset the controller. It still thinks it's flying a Bezier curve. I've just folded it into flying a Bezier curve on the corners and using straight lines in between. Or you can use the straight option, but there is a little bit of a complication there. Either way, the drone will fly the lawnmower paths correctly, which is suitable for 2D mapping. So if we go back to curved, you see down the bottom left hand corner you'll see there's a split. Now this is because the time is 28 minutes 50. If you're using a drone like the Mini 4 Pro, the best you're going to get out of it sensibly is 20 minutes, and so this will actually divide it up into 2 flights. As it realizes that there are 2 flights and it's going to take 28 minutes, it roughly cuts it in half. So the first flight is 14 minutes 51 and the second flight is 13:46. That's a comfortable way to do it each time you land with a sensible amount in the battery. If you go for 20 minutes on the first one, that could be a bit dodgy. It might be complaining at you about low battery status by the time you get it down, and it gives you time to correct just in case something goes wrong. So as you can see, we can navigate between those 2 flights. We can select straighter again or straight, depending on your preference. and select whichever flight we want to look at. And when we're happy with that, I'll go for the straighter option. We can hit export, which is the icon on the right hand corner there down the bottom, and there we are. That's just exported those two flights with the name straighter added onto the end. It'll use the same name as you defined in the Enterprise controller, part 01, part 02, then straighter. So you can, if you want, also create the straight version and export that, and they will be saved to separate files, just straight, not straighter. So we now have exported files that we can copy to the controller. And for this demonstration, ignore the top left hand icon. Just to note, you can only select the split toggle when it's on curved. That option is not available when it's on straight or straighter. So on curved, you can select split either way, and once it's split you can hit straighter, but it will remain split until you go back to curved, and then you can unsplit it. So that is how we've converted a flight on the Enterprise controller that can now be used on a consumer controller. Okay, so I've opened two file explorers on my PC. The right hand one is looking at my phone, which is connected via USB. The left hand one is looking at my documents folder, and inside that I've got a DJI and an exports folder. On the phone I need to navigate to internal storage, documents, drone, mission, exported, and there are the 4 missions I created earlier. So I just copy those into my exports folder on the PC, and voila, I've copied them. Now I'm going to show you how to download the KMZ created files on the application to the DJI controller. So first I have to create a dummy flight or flights on the DJI controller itself. So what I'm going to do is click on waypoint. I'm going to scroll in to where I want to create the dummy flight, and I'm going too far over. Here we are. And for what it's worth, I'm going to create, that's flight number 1. It has to consist of at least 2 waypoints, and I'm going to hit the list and change the name. Test 1. That'll do. And I'm going to save that. And I'm going to hit save and exit. I'm going to do this another 2 times because I actually want to download 3 flights in total. So I'm going to create another dummy flight, 2 waypoints. I wish I could spell. Test 2, and I just need to get rid of the 2. Done. Save, save. Save and exit. Create a 3rd flight. Oh, twit. Right, so I'm just going to do one here. And STRAIGT, done. Save and exit. Okay, so I've created 3 dummy flights. I'm now going to connect this to the PC and overwrite them with the flights I've already created. Okay, I'm now going to download the created KMZ file from my application to the controller. Now, to make life simple, I've opened 2 file explorers, and one is looking at documents. I'm going to go into DJI exports, and there are the flights I created earlier using the application. and this one is the DJI RC Pro 2 controller. So I'm going to go into internal storage, Android, data, DJI Go V5, files, and waypoint. Now these have been sorted, so the most recent are at the top. So this one, I'm going to overwrite this with the straight. So I'm going to take this one, copy it across, and copy that name, delete that file, and replace that file name. So that's the first one done. So I'm going to go back up, and I'm going to replace this one with part 2 straighter. Again, copy that file name, delete the file, and back up, and part 1 straighter I'm going to copy to here, copy the file name, delete that file, and replace that file name. So I have now copied those 3 files across. We'll now have a look at them on the controller itself. Okay, so now we're going to open those files on the controller and see what they're like. So I open the waypoint missions, I select the waypoint mission list, and I will initially go to test 1, and as you can see, it's loaded in several waypoints. I wish it would automatically zoom to where the flight was or where the mission was, but never mind. As you can see, that's loaded that in fine. We have the additional waypoints on the corners, and as you can see, it's flying straight in between. So that will work absolutely fine. And if we hit save and exit, and we'll be able to load that back in, and voila, that is absolutely fine. It will fly a nice long path there with mild deviations in the corners that won't actually upset the mapping mission at all. So we can do that with the other 2. So if we then go to test 2, as you can see, it's loaded that in fine, and we can hit save and exit, and we can load that in again, test 2, absolutely fine. So if I now go and have a look at the straight option, that's loaded that in fine, as you can see. No problems with that whatsoever. The drone will fly that perfectly happily, and you'll get good results from it. But this is where the problem begins. This is where you have to hit exit without saving. Providing you do that, then it will be fine. Now I'll hit save and exit. If I load straight in now, as you can see, I don't know what's happened there. But you must not select save and exit if ever you use the straight option. I don't know why it does that. I could recopy that file across again and it'll be fine. Just remember, don't save and exit.